A dog enters the church during Mass and doesn't want to leave. The priest decides to follow him and ends up discovering a terrible crime that left everyone in the city surprised and scared. It was a radiant Sunday in a small town where the Church of São Logan dominated the central square with its grandeur. The joyful sound of bells echoed through the air, calling the faithful to morning Mass. Inside the church, an atmosphere of excitement took over. Children ran between the pews while adults exchanged smiles and carefree conversations. Everything indicated that it would be a peaceful and blessed day. But suddenly, something completely unexpected happened. The church's large doors slowly opened, almost as if a special visitor was about to enter. Everyone turned to see who was arriving late, but instead of a faithful, a puppy appeared. It was a medium-sized animal with brown and black fur that shined under the light that passed through the colored stained glass windows. The dog entered with the posture of someone who knew exactly where he was going, and his every step seemed loaded with purpose. The murmur began. "Look, a dog!" exclaimed an elderly woman, pointing with a trembling finger. Some worshippers laughed, others discreetly tried to get up to scare the animal away, but the dog seemed unfazed. With a tranquility that defied the moment, he settled into a corner near the benches, as if that were his rightful place. The priest, ready to begin the Mass, was momentarily surprised to see the unexpected visitor. He stopped, looked at the dog, and instead of getting angry or asking someone to take it away, he smiled slightly. "It looks like today we gained a new member in our congregation," he joked, drawing laughter from those present. The dog's presence brought an unexpected lightness to the environment, but no one could have imagined that this interruption would be just the beginning of something much bigger and more disturbing. While the priest played his joke, making everyone in the church laugh, the Mass continued normally, but the dog seemed to have found its place. Lying on the floor, with his head resting on his paws and his eyes attentive, his presence brought a mixture of calm and curiosity to the environment. Some children, intrigued, began to approach slowly as if they wanted to get to know this special visitor better. The dog accepted the affection with a slight wag of its tail and an expression of satisfaction that seemed to warm everyone's hearts. Even when the Mass came to an end, he remained there, motionless, as if he was waiting for something important. People began to comment on his insistence on staying, speculating about who his owner could be or how he had gotten to the church. As time went by, that dog with brown and black fur became a constant presence in the church, so familiar that people began to think of a name for him. It was then that Donna Maria, known for her affection and care, suggested, "Let's call him Jasper." Everyone loved the idea, and the dog seemed to agree, wagging his tail excitedly when he heard the new name. Jasper became part of the Sunday routine. He always showed up at the same time, as if he had made an appointment with the faithful. He chose the same corner, to the right of the benches, where the sunlight passed through the stained glass windows, illuminating him in an almost magical way. Every Sunday, more people were enchanted by his presence, and his figure became synonymous with something special, even though no one knew exactly why he persisted in being there. A smile spread across people's faces. "Look at Jasper, our four-legged friend," Zrenia, the children said, as they ran towards him to play. Jasper received caresses and belly tickles, seeming to love all the attention he received. His presence at the church brought a new sense of warmth and friendship. He became something of a mascot for the parish, and people began to look forward to seeing him at every Mass. Even those who rarely attended church began showing up just to meet the adorable dog. Father Carter, always observant and curious, couldn't stop thinking about Jasper's behavior. It was evident that he was not just a casual visitor. There was something more behind his constant presence. What could be driving Jasper to show up at church every day, always in the same place? One day, after Mass, the priest decided to follow him to find out what he did when he wasn't in church. Jasper, with a wagging tail and a determined look in his eyes, left and headed down a path toward the nearby woods. The priest discreetly began to follow the dog from a distance, curious to find out where he was going. Jasper walked with firm steps, as if he knew exactly what his destination was. The priest followed him carefully between trees and bushes, careful not to make any noise. The path became increasingly narrow and winding, leading them deeper into the forest. Finally, Jasper stopped in front of an old abandoned house covered in moss, with broken windows that seemed to hold secrets forgotten by time. The dog began sniffing around the door, as if trying to find a way in. Father Carter, still hidden among the trees, watched every movement carefully, his heart beating faster every second. After a few minutes, Jasper lay down next to the door, silently, as if he was waiting for someone or something. Sensing that there was something of great importance in that place, the priest decided to approach it carefully. He slowly walked towards the dog, who remained motionless, and crouched down beside him, zoolizing the facade of the house with a mix of curiosity and concern. Breathing heavily with anticipation, Carter placed his hands on the rusty door and pushed it open. A sharp creak echoed in the silence of the woods as the door opened, revealing a dark, dust-covered interior. Jasper, who until then had been waiting patiently, got up and entered the house as if he wanted to show the priest the way. His attentive eyes seemed to guide him. Inside, shadows danced on the walls as daylight streamed through the broken windows. The environment was filled with cobwebs and a thick layer of dust covered everything, giving the feeling that time had stopped there. The priest, cautious, took slow steps, trying not to make any noise, for fear of scaring Jasper or anything else that could be hiding in that place. The dog took him to a room at the back of the house, where the air felt even heavier. The room was full of antique furniture, with objects covered in dirty sheets that barely hid what was underneath. However, something in a corner caught the priest's attention, a small table with an antique trunk on it. He stopped, feeling a shiver run down his spine. What could be in that chest hidden beneath the veil of time? Jasper seemed more excited than ever. He approached the chest, looking at the priest as if asking him to open it. Moved by curiosity and the silent connection he felt with the dog, Father Carter, with careful gestures, lifted the lid of the trunk. Inside, he found a collection of personal objects that seemed forgotten by time. Between them, a photo album and a diary rested, covered in a light layer of dust, but still well preserved. With his heart racing, the priest took the diary in his hands. The pages were slightly wrinkled, but the writing was still legible. On the cover, a name in elegant calligraphy immediately caught your attention: Lillian. As he read it, he felt goosebumps. He knew that name. Lillian had been a beloved churchgoer who recently passed away. Memories of conversations at the parish and stories about Lillian's generosity came flooding back. While leafing through the diary, the priest discovered a story of love and devotion that filled his eyes with emotion. Notes and letters written with tenderness revealed Lillian's life, marked by happy moments and challenges overcome with faith. Alongside the diary, the photo album showed scenes that explained Jasper's connection with that house and the church. There he was, alongside Lillian, in several images that captured moments of pure joy. The diary also contained reports about her relationship with Jasper and a sincere wish that the dog would find a safe and loving home after her departure. Father Carter was deeply moved. Each page turned seemed to tell more about a woman whose life touched so many people, including the faithful Jasper, who now continued to fulfill a role only he understood. But there was something that still made the priest uneasy. Lillian's death seemed to be surrounded by mystery. She had passed away weeks before he arrived at the parish, and the circumstances, still hazy, seemed to hold secrets that needed to be unraveled. The details surrounding Lillian's death were confusing and conflicting, to say the least. While some members of the community claimed that she had passed away at home, others swore that her last breath was taken in the church itself. But what worried Father Carter most was the lack of clarity in the stories. No one seemed to know exactly what had happened, and each account seemed more like a fragment of an incomplete puzzle. Determined to discover the truth, the priest began to ask questions. He spoke to believers, church employees, and even city residents, but the answers he received were always vague, often evasive. Some people looked away, clearly uncomfortable bringing up the subject, while others changed the topic as if they wanted to end the conversation as quickly as possible. Each attempt to obtain information only increased the feeling that there was something wrong, something that everyone preferred to leave buried. As he recalled the conversations and reports he had heard, an idea began to take shape in the priest's mind. Lillian's death was not just a sad tragedy. It could be shrouded in deep secrets, perhaps even a cover-up. Something about that story didn't add up, and the behavior of some people when talking about it only reinforced his suspicion that there was more going on than he could imagine. The connection between Jasper's strange behavior, the mystery surrounding Lillian's death, and the unrest of some members of the community seemed to grow with each step the priest took. Determined not to ignore what was before him, Carter prepared to deepen his investigation even further. He knew he would need concrete facts to unravel what really happened. With this in mind, the priest decided to search for records at the local hospital, hoping to find some document that could shed light on Lillian's last moments. As he walked to begin this new stage of his search, he felt that he was approaching something bigger, something that could completely change his view of that small community. What would he discover in the hospital files? With each step, the mystery seemed to intensify. Father Carter went to the local hospital, an old building with worn brick walls and a busy reception where the murmur of voices filled the space. He went straight to the records department, determined to find documents that would clarify what really happened in Lillian's last days. What seemed like a simple task soon turned out to be an unexpected challenge. The hospital staff greeted him with looks of surprise mixed with hesitation. When they consulted the records, the answer was disconcerting. There was no mention of Lillian in the hospital files. The news left the priest intrigued and suspicious. How could there be no record of a woman so well known and esteemed in the community? Something seemed to be deeply wrong. As the priest continued his questions, he noticed that the discomfort was palpable among the staff. Some responded evasively, as if they wanted to avoid the subject at all costs, while others simply seemed bewildered, unable to understand why the priest was so interested in something they considered irrelevant to him. With each response he received, the feeling that something was being deliberately hidden grew. Frustrated, but even more determined, Carter decided he wouldn't stop there. There was something in that story that no one wanted to reveal, and he felt he needed to find out the truth. He started talking to people who might have knowledge about Lillian and the details of her death, but the answers he received were always unsatisfactory, fragmented, like pieces of a puzzle that didn't fit together. Each clue seemed to lead him to a dead end, but the priest knew that giving up was not an option. The more he investigated, the clearer the presence of a buried secret became, a mystery that connected Lillian, Jasper, and the community's strange resistance to talking about the subject. The question that echoed in his mind was, what were they trying to hide? And why did they seem so desperate to keep the truth hidden? After the frustration at the hospital, Father Carter felt he couldn't stop there. He needed answers, and his next stop was the local police station. The hope was that there I could find some clue about Lillian's case and, who knows, clarify the mystery surrounding her death. The police station was a large building, with an imposing facade that reflected authority, and its reception was full of movement. Police officers chatted among themselves while serving the public. As soon as he entered, the priest was greeted by a police officer on duty. After hearing about his search, the agent referred him to an investigator responsible for unsolved cases. The investigator was a serious-looking man, with features that showed the signs of years of dealing with complicated stories. He listened to the priest's report attentively while Carter explained the details. The absence of records about Lillian in the hospital, the mystery surrounding her death, and the disturbing silence of the community. After hearing the report, the investigator decided to consult the records. To the priest's surprise, he reported that there was no evidence or report that officially confirmed Lillian's death. The words were cold, spoken with almost disconcerting neutrality, while the investigator seemed disinterested in the case, as if it were just another unimportant problem. But there was something the priest could not ignore. While talking to the investigator, he noticed strange behavior around him. Some police officers avoided locking eyes with him, hurriedly turning away as if they wanted to disappear. The atmosphere at the police station felt heavy, almost suffocating, as if something was being deliberately covered up. Whenever the priest asked more specific questions, the answers were vague, disjointed, like pieces of a puzzle that didn't fit together. The nervousness of some agents and the cutting silence of others began to fuel a disturbing suspicion in Father Carter. Something was wrong. Very wrong. With each evasive answer, the feeling that there was something bigger behind the story grew stronger. What could justify so much discomfort? And more importantly, what were they hiding? The mystery seemed to deepen even further, but the priest knew he was only scratching the surface of something much darker. Father Carter felt that something was being carefully hidden, as if an unsettling truth was lurking, waiting to be discovered. Every step he took brought him closer to something greater, and that feeling consumed him. Determined not to give up, he decided that the church itself, where he served every day, could hold the answers he was looking for. Perhaps within its walls, there were secrets that resisted time and curious eyes. He began his investigation by sharing his findings with colleagues from other parishes. It reported on Lillian, the lack of records, and the mystery surrounding her death. During these conversations, something unexpected came to light, an old, almost forgotten story, which carried the weight of a name. Michael. That name seemed surrounded by silence and discomfort. According to vague reports, Michael had been a former priest of the parish, removed for serious reasons. The rumors about him were dark. They said that Michael had used the church for shady purposes, involving criminal activities that tarnished the sanctity of that place. For Carter, it was difficult to reconcile these stories with the idea of a priest who should be an example of virtue. With each report, his curiosity and restlessness increased. He decided he needed to know more. Who was Michael? And what exactly had he done to be removed from his position? Deepening his searches, Carter discovered that Michael had been removed under accusations of misconduct, but the details were nebulous, almost non-existent. Official records seemed deliberately incomplete, and the community was reluctant to talk about the matter. Many changed their conversation or simply denied any knowledge, as if time had erased Michael from the collective memory. Undeterred, Carter decided to follow another path. He scoured old church documents, many of them gathering dust in forgotten archives. At the same time, he sought out people who had worked or attended church in Ferdinand's time. The answers were fragmented, like pieces of a puzzle that refused to fit together, but the priest's persistence began to bear fruit. Among old records, he found discreet mentions of unexplained events and decisions made behind closed doors. One document in particular caught his attention, a letter written by a member of the parish at the time, suggesting that Michael had left the church abruptly, carrying with him secrets that could not be revealed. At the same time, conversations with former employees brought an unexpected name back to the surface: Lillian. The connection between Michael, Lillian, and the mysteries of the church seemed to strengthen. Carter began to realize that perhaps Lillian knew more than she should, that her constant presence and closeness to the church could have put her on a dangerous path. But what exactly did she know? And how did this connect to Jasper's puzzling behavior? Among fragmented reports and forgotten documents, the priest found a revealing clue, something that could be the key to unlocking the mystery that involved not only Michael and Lillian, but also the church where he served. Now more than ever, Carter knew he was about to reveal a truth that many wanted to keep hidden, but he also knew that the deeper he dug, the greater the risk of unearthing something that could shake the foundation of that small community. How far would you be willing to go? And what would you find at the end of that path? The story, which before seemed just a mystery, now took on dark contours and a depth that he had never imagined. Michael had been accused of using the church to hide drugs and carry out other illicit activities. The news had shaken the community at the time, but to protect the parish's image, the case was quickly silenced and buried. Father Carter felt a shiver run down his spine as he connected the dots of this dark puzzle. He began to suspect that Lillian's death, apparently isolated, could be directly linked to Michael's criminal activities. Events that had previously seemed disconnected now began to form a much darker and more disturbing picture. Determined to dig deeper, Carter knew he needed more information. He decided to look for someone who had experienced the events up close. That's when he looked for Zoe, a church employee who had worked there during the period in which Michael was the priest in charge. Zoe was known for her discretion, but also for her sharp memory. When the priest brought up Michael's name, she immediately showed nervousness. His eyes avoided Carter's, as if he was reassessing whether he could trust him. With soft words and patience, Carter got Zoe to finally speak. With a trembling voice, she began to narrate a story that seemed straight out of a mystery movie but was terrifyingly real. Zoe revealed that Lillian, a woman known for her courage and integrity, had begun to distrust Michael and his unusual activities in the church. Observant and astute, Lillian noticed strange behavior, out-of-hours movements, and objects being transported suspiciously. Determined to seek justice, Lillian decided to alert Logan, a local police officer she trusted. She believed he would be the right person to help expose the truth and protect the community. But what Lillian didn't know was that Logan was not the hero he appeared to be. Instead of investigating the allegations, he was part of the criminal scheme. Logan was Michael's accomplice and was deeply involved in the illegal activities that took place within the church. Zoe paused for a moment, fighting back tears before continuing. She explained that by trusting Logan, Lillian had unknowingly put her life at risk. Father Carter felt the weight of the revelation like a punch in the stomach. Now there was no doubt that Lillian was directly linked to these dark events, and her death could have been a direct result of her courage in trying to reveal the truth. The priest, his mind buzzing with questions, began to realize that the network of secrets and crimes was much deeper than he imagined. What else could be hidden within the walls of that church? And above all, how far would he be willing to go to expose the truth and honor Lillian's memory? The mystery seemed more intricate and dangerous with each discovery. But Carter knew he could not back down now. Zoe, with a trembling voice and tears in her eyes, revealed the darkest moment in the entire story. One fateful night, Lillian had gone to church to confront Michael and Logan directly about what she knew. Determined to expose the truth, she was not intimidated by the two, even though she knew she was facing powerful and desperate men. The discussion quickly became heated. Lillian was irreducible, while Michael and Logan, fearing that their secrets would be revealed, did everything they could to silence her. What began as a verbal confrontation ended in tragedy. In the heat of the clash, Lillian fell and hit her head hard. The impact was fatal, and the life of a courageous woman seeking justice was taken abruptly and cruelly. Zoe paused, trying to contain her tears, as she described what happened next. With the coldness of those who were already accustomed to hiding dark truths, Michael and Logan decided to hide Lillian's body in the church itself. They manipulated the situation to make it look like a simple disappearance, leaving the community without answers and in devastating silence. Father Carter was horrified by Zoe's confession. The gravity of what she revealed was almost unbearable to hear. Lillian's fate had been much crueler than he could ever imagine. Feeling the weight of responsibility, Carter knew he could not allow this injustice to remain hidden. Determined to honor Lillian's memory and expose the crimes committed in the church, he decided to act immediately. Armed with the information he had discovered, the priest went straight to the police station. He carried with him all the evidence he collected, including Zoe's confession and the objects found in the abandoned house. He knew it would be a challenge to get the truth heard, especially considering the suspicious behavior of some police officers that he had noticed before. Upon arriving at the police station, Carter presented his findings clearly and firmly, describing every detail of the story. He explained Michael and Logan's connection to the crimes, Lillian's tragic death, and the cover-up orchestrated to hide the truth. He also highlighted the suspicious role of some members of the police force and demanded that measures be taken to correct this terrible injustice. The atmosphere at the police station changed. The priest's revelations came as a shock to those who heard him. Carter knew the path would be difficult, but he was determined to fight for justice, not just for Lillian, but for everyone who believed that the church should be a place of light and not a refuge for crimes. He felt like his mission was just beginning, but for the first time, he believed that the truth would finally begin to emerge from the shadows. The commissioner, initially skeptical, was unable to hide the impact the accusations had on him. As he listened to Father Carter detail the events and presented the overwhelming evidence, his expression changed. The gravity of the situation was undeniable. Under pressure and faced with the facts, he finally agreed to launch an in-depth investigation. The idea of a priest involved in such a dark scandal caused an uproar within the police station. The news spread quickly, and the atmosphere of tension was palpable. The police, now under pressure to act, mobilized quickly. An operation was mounted to arrest Michael and Logan, those mainly responsible for the crimes covered up for so long. Father Carter, anxious and determined, closely followed each new development with the hope that justice would be done. The arrests did not take long. Michael and Logan were captured and taken to the police station, where they would be interrogated and formally prosecuted. As news of their arrests spread across the city, the community was overcome with a mix of shock and relief. Many were in disbelief to discover the level of corruption and crime that had infiltrated the church, a place that had always symbolized faith and purity. But at the same time, there was a sense of justice finally being achieved, a long-buried truth now exposed to the light of day. Meanwhile, Jasper, Lillian's faithful companion, continued his routine at church. He seemed calmer, as if he felt his mission was accomplished. The dog that had been the first to draw attention to the mystery now symbolized the courage and loyalty that led to the revelation of the truth. Father Carter, watching Jasper, felt a mixture of sadness and relief. Lillian had lost her life tragically, but her story would not be forgotten. Jasper, with his quiet persistence, played a crucial role in ensuring his owner received justice. With Michael and Logan in custody and their crimes finally exposed, Father Carter felt that the church and community could begin to heal their wounds. Although the path to the truth was painful, he knew that bringing these secrets to light was the first step in restoring trust and integrity in a place that should be a symbol of hope. Jasper, as he lay calmly in his usual corner, seemed to share this feeling. Justice had prevailed, and Lillian's legacy was finally at peace. Father Carter felt that he had fulfilled an essential part of his mission. The truth had been exposed, and justice had finally been served. However, one question still worried him deeply: the future of Jasper, Lillian's loyal companion. Throughout the investigation, Jasper played a key role, but now the question remained about how to honor the special connection between him and his former owner. Carter couldn't get the story he had discovered about the day of Lillian's death out of his head. Jasper had arrived at the church with her, witnessing his owner's last moments, and since then, he continued to frequent the place, as if patiently waiting for the day when she would return for him. This unshakable loyalty touched the priest's heart deeply, and he decided to investigate more about Jasper's past and his relationship with Lillian. Talking to people who knew Lillian and checking records, the priest discovered how inseparable they had been. Jasper was more than just a pet. He was a true companion in Lillian's last, difficult days. This special bond was what kept Jasper in the church, as a silent guardian of his owner's memory. Realizing the depth of this bond, Carter decided it was time to give Jasper the chance to find the peace he seemed to seek. To do this, he planned a simple but deeply symbolic act. He would take Jasper to the most meaningful place for him, Lillian's tomb. He prepared a small ceremony, inviting friends and members of the community to gather at the cemetery and pay one last tribute to the woman who had touched so many lives, including that of her faithful dog. On the appointed day, Carter took Jasper to the cemetery. The dog seemed to sense that something special was about to happen. Upon arriving at Lillian's tomb, Jasper, normally so serene, approached slowly, as if he recognized the place. With his head bowed and his eyes filled with silent sadness, he lay down next to the tombstone, as if he could finally say goodbye. The scene moved everyone present. The silence was broken only by the sighs and tears of those who witnessed that moment so full of meaning. For Carter, that gesture from Jasper represented more than a farewell. It was an act of love and loyalty that transcended death. As the sun sank below the horizon, the priest felt that for the first time both Jasper and Lillian were at peace. The faithful dog, now surrounded by a community that also shared his pain and love, finally found his place. Father Carter said a short prayer, asking God to take care of Lillian and bring comfort to Jasper. It was a deeply moving moment where everyone present felt the strength of the connection between Lillian and her loyal companion. For the priest, Jasper's presence at the tomb was a powerful symbol of loyalty and the unconditional love that animals can offer. With the ceremony completed, Carter made a decision that would change everything. He decided to adopt Jasper, guaranteeing the dog a new home where he would be loved and cared for. He knew that this decision also honored Lillian's silent desire for her faithful friend to have a happy and protected life. Jasper was taken to Father Carter's house, where he began a new phase, surrounded by affection and attention. Little by little, the dog began to explore the new environment with curiosity, and over time he began to relax and adapt to his new home. The priest's constant presence, offering love and care, helped Jasper overcome the sadness and loss of his former owner. The priest, in turn, made sure to include Jasper in his daily routine, ensuring that he not only had a home but also felt part of a new family. It was a new beginning for both of them, and little by little, the love and friendship that emerged between them became a source of comfort and joy. Jasper and Father Carter began to build a routine together. They walked side by side, played in the garden, and even participated in community events. Little by little, Jasper became a beloved figure in the parish, bringing joy and comfort to everyone who knew him. His presence, marked by unwavering loyalty, was a living reminder of how true love can transform even the most difficult moments. To honor Lillian's memory and celebrate Jasper's positive impact on the community, Father Carter had a special idea. He created a small space in the church dedicated to both. He set up a plaque with a photo of Lillian and Jasper, surrounded by a place where the faithful could leave messages and memories. This gesture not only honored Lillian, but also highlighted how Jasper's loyalty had touched everyone's hearts, transforming pain into hope. As time passed, Jasper's new life was filled with love and care. The grief of loss, which once seemed insurmountable, began to give way to hope and renewed happiness. The bond between Father Carter and Jasper grew every day, bringing comfort and mutual friendship. They found in each other the comfort of a new beginning, which allowed them to move forward. The story of Jasper and Lillian has become a constant symbol that even in the face of suffering and injustice, love and loyalty can prevail. For Father Carter, adopting Jasper was not just an act of compassion, but the fulfillment of a legacy left by Lillian, a legacy of kindness and care that he was committed to keeping alive. Thank you for following this exciting story until the end. If she touched your heart, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share in the comments what you thought of this journey of love, loyalty, and new beginnings.